Live-action media to video game tie-ins are one of the hardest things to pull off in gaming, whether it's down to poor budget, rushed production time, or sheer incompetence. For every good tie-in, there's about 2 bad ones at least. Doctor Who is one of those franchises that is crying out for a video game adaptation, and while it has got it, they all have varying levels of success, ranging from moderate to none. We're talking about a franchise which has a central character of the power to travel all around time and space, anywhere and everywhere. Yet the best modern game there is of it is a gem-matching one, which, while good for what it really is quite good. It's not really the genre that can show the true capabilities of what Doctor Who can be like in a video game format. In some ways, a Doctor Who game could transcend the budget limitations of the TV show. The adventure games are the ones that have come closest to capturing that feel, but you can't help but wish for something bigger. So, the question is, why does Doctor Who struggle in this regard? Well, we've got to ask ourselves, what is the potential of a Doctor Who game? We have a few regularly touted suggestions. Number 1. An open-world RPG featuring either the current or even multiple Doctors on a large-scale adventure through the universe, crossing multiple times, planets, like Mass Effect or Knights of the Old Republic, anything by BioWare basically. Or number 2, a Telltale game style interactive story where you drive the choices, maybe as your own custom Doctor and companion. So, why can't we have anything else? Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. Money, demographics, and licensing to the wrong developers are all things that can get in the way. We'll have a look at a few failed high-profile examples over the course of this series, so first, let's have a look at the catastrophe that was the 2010 Nintendo deal. On March 12, 2010, before Series 5 had even been aired, news emerged that Nintendo had signed a £10 million, or around about $14 million, deal with the BBC to bring Doctor Who to the Nintendo Wii and the DS. Here's a bit from the news article. We went with Nintendo as they have huge appeal for families, and Doctor Who is very much a family brand. The Wii console is key for us as it is something that families play together. The BBC is apparently keen to monitor the game closely and has rejected anything too violent. Therein lies the first obstacle for Doctor Who games, the chosen demographics, and the content of catering towards said demographic. In 2010, Doctor Who was riding a huge wave of popularity, and it was the top tier in family viewing. So of course the BBC would want to capitalise on this by making a game geared towards kids, and maximise the range of people it reaches. And of course, this involved immediately cutting off any possibility of mature storytelling, even in a teen sense. Violence, of course, has had its place in Doctor Who for years, especially in the classic era, and while, hypothetically, a video game can't have the Doctor blowing things up, it can have the enemies at their most terrifying doing just that, and you have to use your ingenuity and wit to defeat them through innovative gameplay. Or just collect a load of crystals and hope for the best, as we'll soon discover. Well, it goes without saying that just because Nintendo did the deal for the licensing, doesn't ever mean that they were going to touch the game with one of their finest development teams. But alas, the Doctor really got the short straw. Introducing UK developer Asylum Entertainment. This was the first mistake. They were the video game equivalent of low-budget filmmakers, well, the Asylum. What is it with Asylums? Anywho, I should say that this Asylum Entertainment is not to be confused with Canada's Asylum Entertainment Incorporated. 2 different companies and 2 different purposes. The UK Asylum Entertainment's history with the properties that they've been handed to adapt, right back to the PS1 era, should have rung warning signs around the BBC office. Let's have a little look at what they've done. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, A Twitch in Time. Pretty poorly received at the time. Powerpuff Girls Chemical Extraction. Christ. Bob the Builder, Bob Builds a Park. They did well here, but if they couldn't make this decent, there would have been no hope for them. Galidor, Defenders of the Outer Dimension. I guess this was a bit middling. Could have been. Oh no, this was the one that broke them. So all in all, giving a highly respected and desirable brand like Doctor Who to this less than desired company was misguided at best. Now combine this with the fact that it was in production for less than a year, and bear in mind that a standard video game production cycle is a year at least for action and adventure games, well, you're not going to come up with that great a result. Even major companies fall into the trap of rushing out games for a holiday release though, Sonic 06 being the archetype. So without further ado, let's look at the game itself. The game tries to play out like an episode of the TV series. It's very clear that's what the intent is. The Doctor and Amy Pond find an abandoned spaceship and discover a sinister plot. Standard fare, really. The story is written by Ollie Smith, who's honestly done the best he could under what I assume was a lot of pressure, guidelines and limitations. Graphically, the game looks terrible. By 2010, the Wii had seen some wonderful looking third-party games. Okami, No More Heroes, Mad World, all done by third-party developers. By comparison, Return to Earth looks like a Nintendo 64 title. The character models are obviously intended to be cartoony, but just end up looking more like Duplo figures. And compared to something like the adventure games, which was developed at the exact same time, it just looks tacky. The gameplay itself, well, it's fairly monotonous, really. There's a lot of stealth, drawing comparisons with some reviewers to err on the side of a kiddie Metal Gear Solid. The whole game is centered around many goals of crystal collecting, and no, it's not as fun as the maze. There are Daleks and Cybermen too, but they play a not even intimidating role, and it's barely worth their involvement, and they're clearly there for fan service. Due to the rushed development of the game, or just total lack of quality control, the game is subject to glitches, weirdly behaving AI.
And if the cafeteria isn't open, then you know you're in trouble.
I assume that Matt Smith and Karen Gillan were contractually obliged to do this, but Nick Briggs is nowhere to be found, which is unusual when it comes to the Cybermen and the Daleks, leading to some dodgy attempts by other actors impersonating them.
Halt the overload. We must survive. Halt the overload. We must survive. We must survive.
You always do.
I'm more inclined to blame the voice direction more than anything. Frankly, I'd love to see the budget this game was actually given, because there's no way that this cost the majority of, say, to pick a figure, £10 million to make.
And the winner is us. Ta-da!
The game was received dreadfully, both critically and with fans. It was often labelled as one of the worst Wii games ever made, and unfavourably compared to Sumo Digital's vastly superior adventure games, which were available on PC for free. It's a disc of racer potential which was then sold at a regular retail price, but now doomed to sit untouched as CEXs throughout the country. Of course, the game got a sequel in the way of Evacuation Earth on the Nintendo DS, and that took the form of a Layton-esque puzzle game. It was better to say the least, in the way of paying off Return to Earth storyline, but still fairly lackluster. However, we can cover that properly another time. Ultimately, Doctor Who's brush with the Wii was a dismal failure critically, commercially, and creatively. It can only get better from here. So of course, no, this isn't what a Doctor Who game should be. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I thought it'd be nice to cover something different to cosplay for once in a while. So I've always wanted to cover the Doctor Who gaming side of things in a bit more depth, so I hope you enjoy this little side project of mine. It's something I've wanted to do for a very long time. So feel free to follow my Instagram or my Twitter, and until next time, see ya!